and it's time to do business again. This time it will be 55 minutes of doing business right here on Business Incorporated. Here's what we have prepared for you. It's a good one for Zimbabwe. Their forex inflow has increased by 13%. And in Botswana, the policy favors Ugandans. We'll give you updates from the G20 meeting holding in South Africa. Some things about deaths on the continent. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program. I'm Ini John Mekwa. We start off from the metals market. We can tell you that gold slipped on Thursday as investors book profits after prices hit more than 1 month high earlier in the day on increased expectations of an interest rate cut by the Federal Reserve next week after that inflation number came from the United States as expected yesterday. Looking at the numbers right there, we see spot gold is on the flip side today after 2 days of surging. We see some drop this afternoon, 0.5%, $2,704.41, still on the high side, even though it's tapered a bit. US gold also down 0.5%, $2,744.60. Spot silver follows suit the red market for the metals this afternoon, $31.84 a barrel. Platinum is also down 0.2%, $937.55. And palladium also is down this afternoon 0.2%. at $979.91 a barrel. So even that expectation or plan by China to increase their gold purchase hasn't helped the market this afternoon. Also, analysts say that it's just profit taking because there's been gold rally. We've seen good rally in the last couple of days. The bullion is seen as a safe investment during economic and geopolitical turmoil which parts of the world is facing at this time. Now we go to oil prices and see that it was a little change in early Asian trade this today on Thursday as forecast of a weak demand and a higher than expected rise in the U.S. gasoline and distillate inventories stemmed gains from additional round of EU sanctions on tightening Russian oil inflow. We see Brent is 0.24% up $73.66, while WTI is up much more than that, $70.35 a barrel. And of course, expectations of that Federal Reserve cuts expected next week is also feeding into that. Apart from OPEC decision, politics, which is still surging in the global space. Still in that space, good for Nigeria as we see OPEC announce that there's been an increase in crude production to 1.49 million barrels a day in November, up from 1.33 million barrels that was recorded in October. That's according to OPEC's latest monthly oil market. This number, of course, is different from what we've got from the federal government, but the good thing is we're seeing an improvement in the numbers of the number of barrels produced in the country. Of course, this feeds into the revenue of the country, and Nigeria retains its leading position on the chart for Africa's top oil producers within OPEC. At the same time, Nigeria's oil rig count is unchanged as at November 11. Another development in that space is the first export of PMS from Nigeria, from Dangote refinery. Well, the Chief Executive Officer of Financial Derivatives Company, Mr. Bismarck Rouhani, has been listing some benefits from that, not just for Dangote, but for the country. He notes that this line of action would ease the demand for dollar and increase inflow into the nation's reserve. Mr. Rouhani was a guest on Business Morning earlier today.
Why is it good for Nigeria and good for Dangote is that it earns dollars. It has more money coming out of the value chain than from producing and selling crude. Now, what follows actually now is what we call the infrastructure spend to make sure that we can evacuate products efficiently, store them efficiently, and also evacuate crude products to the refinery efficiently. And what we are seeing now is that no matter what has happened, the price of petrol the price of kerosene, the price of diesel has been stable over the last couple of weeks. The question is the logistics of getting crude, the payment system, so that the Dangote refinery has to be paid, has to get supply, and has to have the evacuation mechanism. I think all of that is in place. So these are early days, and I think the market will stabilize. But the beauty is that if you export crude, you probably get $70 a barrel from crude. If you refine crude into a product, you probably get as much as maybe $100 or $120 a barrel. That difference actually accrues, one, to Dangote refinery, two, to Nigeria's external reserves, and helps to ease the pain.
And then in Adamawa State, the government has approved the 2025 budget proposal and appropriation bill totaling over 486 billion naira. This approval was granted during a State Executive Council meeting held in the council chambers of the Government House in Yola, the Adamawa State capital. It was presided over by the Deputy Governor, Professor Khaled Farautal George. Briefing journalists at the end of the meeting, the Commissioner for Information for the state, Mr. Iliya, reveals that the Council approved the 2025 budget proposal and appropriation bill titled the Budget of Service. In addition, he announced the Council's approval of a contract to procure and convert a residential property into a high court building in Madagali local government area. According to the Commissioner, this initiative is part of the government's commitment to provide courts and litigation services to the people.
The budget is tagged
the trending stories. Simply log on to channelstv.com.
Welcome back. It's Business Incorporated on Channels Television. Let's talk about affordable housing. And in the course of this conversation, we would find that one of the things that has come on board is the issue of substandard housing. Now, the Ministry of Housing has noted that 75% of the country's 42 million housing units are substandard. Now, the Council of Registered Builders of Nigeria are proposing the development of a comprehensive national housing delivery strategy. They had this meeting earlier this week, and they are saying that there should be a national plan for producing local building materials to address Nigeria's housing deficit. Well, what would this look like? How would it be different from conversations we've heard even before now? Well, let's speak to Emmanuel Nosome. He's the lead partner at Cardinal Professionals. Joins us right here in the studio. Mr. Nosome, good afternoon. Thank you so much for your time.
Good afternoon, Ini. Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a new thing. I don't know if you get excited when you hear, oh, let's have a national plan and strategy. We've had so many before now. And it's important there, talking about local raw materials, building materials, which seems to be at the fore of increased or high and unaffordable housing, and also the issue of substandard or quality housing.
Okay, thank you very much, Ini. And let me mention that the real estate sector is one of the most promising sectors that we have if we can get our acts together. You understand? And beyond what they have raised in the strategic plan, the issue of substandard, crisis that we have. One of the major issue also in the housing space is the issue of affordable housing. And one of the things that has contributed to inaffordability of this housing is what you have clearly, highlighted, which is the cost of raw materials, the cost of land, and the inflation within the economy. And so having a national strategic roadmap, will be good. And my recommendation would be this has to be from end to end, you understand? Because if you agree with me, looking at the commissioner in Lagos State, Mr. Tokunbo Wahab, clamping down on people living under the bridges, look at Abuja, you see the Minister of FCT, you understand, the president of Mr. Yeson Wike clamping down on slums, and nobody loves to live in slums. Naturally, I can't just wake up and say my preferred location is slum. So the biggest conversation is the affordability of the housing that we have around, and also the substandard nature of what we currently have, you understand? And the truth is that people will always migrate in the direction of prosperity. You understand that it is a global phenomenon. Where a state is prosperous, you will see people migrate, to harness the opportunity that the state presents, and it's not a bad thing. So it's high time that the government begins to look at it as an opportunity for you to get cheaper labor to achieve the prosperity you want to achieve within the state. And it is then incumbent on the government of the day to always be forward-looking to see how we can accommodate all the people that actually see opportunity in our direction.
Yeah, when we talk about housing, I can't help but just get the picture of that over 700 housing units discovered. And if you go to the FCT, you see a lot of unoccupied houses, and the owners probably have many houses. And even here in Lagos, the highbrow area, the islands, there are so many unoccupied houses. So sometimes, as from a layman's point of view, you say, why don't we just give out these houses? For instance, the discovered over 700 houses, units of duplexes. You can imagine how many people it would house. And if government were to put it as a palliative, do something to it and make it more affordable, that could solve a number of problems for some people.
You are pretty spot on, Ine. And this is the way I will look at it. The national statistic has churned out some figures that we are currently about 22 million plus housing deficit. In my opinion, I actually think that figure is largely inaccurate, because of the number of unoccupied housing, that we have. And we currently have it like that because we don't have laws that actually compel people not to do that. You understand? And our laws, looking at some of the laws, like for example, the Lagos tenancy law, there's nothing deterring a landlord from keeping his house vacant, notwithstanding the fact that... I don't think
the Lagos tenancy law, I think when it was newly brought on, then people were struggling to meet up. But at this point, I don't see it as being active.
Yeah, so there's a need for a bit of more focus by the government with the intention to regulate that space. You understand? For example, if I keep my house vacant for a year, you understand, will I be paying any higher tenement rate that is almost equal to assuming I've rented it out? You understand? If we had some of the revisions to our laws, it can probably help us, help curb this thing, and also the commitment of the government to enacting this law. The current tenancy law that we have in Lagos State forbids any landlord to demand for more than 1 year of rent. In fact, if you are paying your rent monthly, the maximum you can ask is 6 months, according to the law. But because of they've pushed the housing issue to a region that is even beyond the reach of the middle class. You understand that sustainability is not an issue. So you then see landlord beginning to behave in a manner asking for 2 years rent in advance against the provision of the law. And, it's out there. The data are out there. Platforms are out there where you see this thing happens day to day, which then makes it more unaffordable for the people. Like I said, the issue of housing transcends the fact that people don't just have where to live. it translates into other things, environmental issues, security issues, rather than spending the state's prosperity of battling security or battling environmental issue. Why can't we focus on the national strategic plan or state strategic plan? You may not everywhere in Nigeria has the problem, maybe the major cities, you understand, where you have this plan on how to close this gap and accommodate. You can possibly zone out some areas and say these are low income earning areas like we used to have in the past. But we have totally eroded those schemes where everybody just come up with anything and then put a tag on it and say this is how much I get it. I hear that the cost of building is actually very high, you understand, but I also strongly believe that the inflation that we have experienced in the housing sector is not commensurate with the normal inflation that we have.
Really? I wonder why. I mean, why do you think it's more? But anyway, that's not really where I want to go to, because you did talk about maybe setting out some areas as low income and all of that. And I've heard some people say, well, I have a house in my village. If the road network, or we had rail where people could easily come to and fro, I mean, I think we would have kind of decongested exactly from the major urban. So even if we had a low-income housing area, where is my office? Where are my children's schools?
True.
How do I get them? So it boils back to actually infrastructure at the end of the day.
Yeah, very, very apt, Ini. And you see, the solution is interconnected. It's not an isolated solution. And that's my earlier comment to say, you don't focus on dealing with the symptoms of a bigger issue. You understand? Why can't we, to be honest, many people working in Lagos don't necessarily have to live in Lagos. You understand? And if you have a very solid rail network from Ibadan to Lagos, like we currently have, you have it efficient, you understand, then that can possibly ease the pressure. Abuja is also facing a very huge tension when it comes to affordability of housing, you understand, and government needs to look into how we can ease the connectivity in this location in a way that can then reduce the pressure. And like you rightly said at the beginning of the show, the national strategic plan is something that should be holistic, looking at infrastructural gaps and also regulatory issues that needs to be addressed in order to ease the burden on the people.
And then the other side would be the building materials.
True.
Obviously, this is a major part that fits into the high cost of building or maintaining a building. Do we have prospects for locally manufactured? I know there was a time they were trying to get, I think, those containers to make homes out of them.
True.
I don't know how successful that has, but I don't see a lot of it.
Yeah, so like I said, when it comes to affordability, we are not talking luxury. I think we should be able to separate the two. You understand? And when it comes to providing basic housing need for the people, I would rather say that more than 90% of the materials that are needed can be locally sourced, starting from the iron to the cement. We manufacture cement in Nigeria. We have two major manufacturers, and then the materials you require for the basic housing need are actually in Nigeria, you understand? So, but when you get to the luxury end, now you start thinking about importation of luxury chandeliers, fittings, and all the rest, But when it comes to that, government needs to be ingenuous and look inward and see how we can make do with what we currently have locally in order to get the dividend of democracy to the people.
I guess this should make up if we're going to have an effective strategic plan, to deliver affordable housing. I guess these should be some of those ingredients that should be taken into
definitely. In the past, we've always been very apt when it comes to coming up with wonderful documents. You understand? And I don't think that with the level of people, the brains that are in the room, whether any shoddy output will come out. But my fear is the commitment to implementing whatever comes out from that national strategic plan, you understand? Beyond the story, beyond the reforms, do we have the political will? Who are the people benefiting from this problem that we currently have? Do they have the political will to let go and let the masses have some level of respect? You get what I'm trying to say? And those are the things that really matter. No matter how beautiful what you have on the table, the commitment of the people For example, you mentioned on the island, who are the people who are the owners of the properties on the island? Are they willing to let people come in there? You understand? Or they just want to hold it? Does it matter to them? Are they even interested in putting in place laws that will punish themselves? You understand? Those are the questions that we need to
And I'm
answer.
so curious about what's going to happen to that over 700 units of duplex in Abuja that was discovered. Sometimes I just think about what are they going to use it for? What's going to happen?
If you want to get my opinion on that, pending the outcome of the court ruling, we'll know whether it's our collective patrimony.
I guess it was a final seizure for the government.
Final seizure.
So it should be a property of the government.
Of the government at the moment. So it's our collective patrimony, you understand? And I think it's something that should be quickly converted into a low housing, facility for the purpose of the people in Abuja, most importantly.
Nigerians generally. Thank you so much for your time. Lead partner, Cardinal Professionals, Mr. Emmanuel Nosomi. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ine.
Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll head to the market right here on Business Incorporated. Stay with us.